but the contrast to that is Constant Gardener, right? To me, Constant Gardener, even though that was like a very docu style as well, not as much as City of God. One scene that I absolutely loved the way it was shot and lit. When the characters, when what's her name? Rachel Wise, yeah. She
Yeah.
questions Ray Fiennes when he's speaking, and they're in this room where there's a lot of windows and you can see outside. Normally you have a scene like that, you would have the windows outside the windows. It would be a little bit overblown, but it was the balance between indoors and outdoors was so spot on that I felt that they were part of the outside world. I mean, I just wanted to make that comment. It was just so beautifully lit and beautifully done and beautifully shot with your longer, lenses. And that whole scene where they first meet, it just it just stands out really, really amazingly.
Oh, thank you. I worked hard on that scene, testing and preparing and lighting. It's good that it, you saw it because it's one of the scenes that was difficult because I had all those, and the normal thing would be just let it blow out. But
Yeah.
I didn't imagine, being in London and, to contextualize and put the characters in their place where they are. It's important. So yeah, it was a we
Right.
had a little bit of work to balance that and to get it.
For sure. What was it's Constant Gardener is I think it's a very relevant film even in today's time, and it probably will for a while, because of its subject matter and whatnot. How much were you aware of stories like these? This is like 22 years ago, or no, almost 20 years ago. Um, what did you learn out of it from working on a film like this and going to,
Yeah.
Africa and then kind of going back and forth?
No, I learned a lot. I didn't have the slight. I mean, you suspect that the pharma companies do this type of stuff, but you don't realize so much until somebody like John Le Carre researches and puts it in a book, and from there becomes a script. Um, I didn't I wasn't conscious, and it was great that doing the film and finding out and learning about this was very important, and making other people. I always joke that this film gave me one of the um, most uh, the nicest prizes awards that I've received, and this award was a friend of mine went to a screening. Those screenings that they do before launching the film that they do to influencers,
Right,
and
right, right.
when the film finishes, they're walking, and everybody gathers together and you can listen comments. And in this screening, Hillary Clinton was invited, and she was candidate to be president of the United States in that
Mhm.
at that moment. And my friend tells me that he listened, that she says to one of the guys that is walking with her, probably somebody that was working with her in a campaign. He says, "Huh, this thing about the pharma companies, we have to research into that and put it into the campaign." So that that is pleasing in the sense that, okay, the film was useful. We made somebody aware of that, somebody powerful aware of that, and go into and research about how serious those things are, and you know that's a good
Right.
reason for making a film like that. That's why I
That's
consider
amazing.
it. That's why I consider it an award.
No, that's amazing. And one of the things that, the way cinema changes the world, right? And after the Vietnam War, a lot of films came out about, the aftermath of the veterans. Like Oliver Stone made several films on that. Then after the 9/11 and attacks and the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, a lot of films came out on that subject. And I think around that year when Constant Gardener came out, and a bunch of there's a lot of politically driven stories of films that were being made. But Constant Gardener was something on its own because it wasn't really dealing with the Iraq War or the aftermath and all that. One of the things that I really, normally you watch a film. So if you watch a film that's shot in two different worlds, like, like in this case, like UK, which is everything is like, prestige and clean and civilized, for the lack of a better word. And then you go to these, remote parts of these villages in Africa, and they're completely different worlds. But the way you guys um, merge them both together, I couldn't differentiate between them. And I think part of that, for me at least, was that you have this beautiful looking world that is all fake and corrupted. And then you have this really, really devastating looking world that is just genuine and honest. And the striking contrast was there, but it wasn't there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I
Hmm.
thought that was really well done.
Well, I hadn't thought of that. Interesting.
Just a observation. I mean, everybody has their own interpretations, right? Doesn't make
Yeah,
it
yeah.
right. But what was well? I mean, you had shot City of God in a completely you know in a world which was not something that the West is used to seeing on cinema, and even being filming in there can be challenging. And a similar thing with City of with Constant Gardener. Was there any logistic challenge from the authorities or from logistic standpoints, whether it was the weather or anything like that, that you guys had to deal with?
No, we had an excellent British English film company that had very good relationship with companies in Africa.
Mm,
Basically, what happened was we scouted the film uh, first, supported by a South African film company, and the South African film company um, took us to visit locations in South Africa because for them it was much more secure to film in South Africa where they had the structure. And they imagined that we would come with a big structure and, but Fernando and me in this pre-scout, we wanted to see the book what John le Carré had written, and that happened in Kenya. So we asked the production to take us to Kenya,
mm,
and we said we can film here. I know, but there's no film structure. Well, we bring it in. It's small cameras and stuff. So the film company was very, very nice, very sweet, blue skies, and they adapted and they made it possible that we filmed in Kenya. And it's very nice that now after 20 so years I went back and I filmed again in Kenya with the same company, and here I am very happy to, my next film is a sequel of The Constant Gardener.
really?
No, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a film, a beautiful film I did with Kanan Warsame, the composer, singer, musician, and
Hmm.
he is Somali, so he wrote a story that happens in Somalia, and in this case, because it was so complicated to film in Somalia, we filmed mostly in Kenya, and then I filmed with the same film company, and it was beautiful to film, with the same people which I had done the Constant Gardener 20 years after.
Right. So the Constant Gardener has a star cast, right? Ray Fiennes and Rachel Weisz, like even at that time, were pretty big. big stars. City of God, completely different. Maybe in the world, in the Brazilian world, yes, but not to the Western
Oh,
world,
no, no, no.
right? So, what did you see in Fernando? Because sometimes you can get, going from that world of nobodies to somebody, it can get intimidating sometimes, depending on who
Yes.
you're working with. How did you guys transition yourself as well as what you saw Fernando working with people like Ray Fiennes and Rachel Weisz?
Mm.
Was there any difference? Was it a piece of cake? Was it just, did it
No,
make you guys
no.
feel comfortable?
Fernando was it was more strange for Fernando and me to go to the favelas and film City of God than to film Ray Fiennes and Rachel Weisz because we were more accustomed to, the normal Brazilian
Actors.
actors or South American actors. So yes, Ray Fiennes and Rachel Weisz were couple of steps higher, but it was actors that, Fernando is married to an actress dancing. She dances an actress. So
Mm.
we are in this world. So no, to us it was normal. It was more rare to film in the favelas than to film in in Africa with Rafe and Rachel.
In terms of um, cinematography, I love the contrast in Constant Gardener. Like the color correction is really, really well done. It has a natural look, of course, but at the same time, there's a subtle contrast that pops out, and it just really draws you in. Um, what was, I mean, like you said, there was, different time periods in City of God, kind of a little bit, but not too much in Constant Gardener, not as much as difference as it was in City of God. What was the discussion that you had with Fernando in terms of the look of the film before the production began and even during scouting and all that?
Mm. Yeah, let me tell you a kind of funny thing that when 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 we were hired to do the Constant Gardener, well, Fernando starts first, and then he tells, and the producer, a British producer, Tracy Seward, she sends me, I'm in Brazil, and she sends me a lot of curriculum, CVs of assistant cameraman and gaffers for me to start choosing the crew. And I tell her, no, 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 hold on just a second. The first guy that I choose into my crew is the color corrector, the colorist, because it's with
Mm.
him that I'm going to establish the look, and with him that I'm going to start thinking of what type of crew, what type of equipment, and so and so. And that's exactly what happened. She understood that and she sent me, and I made contact with Asa Soul, a colorist from London. I don't know what lab he's on now, but very good, very great colorist. And with him, I chose what type of negative I would use, how I would expose the negative, because I would do tests and I would go to the color suite with him and start playing. And I like this, like that. And we would find the look and establish how I would expose according to, because it's very important that what you film interacts with the color correction. So it's good
Mm-hmm.
that you mentioned, because color correcting was very important in this film. And what I normally do is when I'm scouting, I start taking pictures. Now I film, but at that period, I would take pictures with my camera and a negative similar to the negative that I would using. And I go to the color correction, I correct them, and I share them with Fernando and say, oh, for this sequence, I'm thinking of going more or less in this direction. What do you think? Oh, I think it's great. Or oh, I think it's a little bit too much. Or I start uh, making the decisions of the color grading with Fernando. Normally, Fernando is very generous and he accepts most of what I propose because we have talked about it. And I wanted the
Right.
African, I wanted the African color to pop out and to be something very contrasty with this very boring constant gardener's world of green and plants. I wanted the Africa to be exploding color. So that was my proposal, and Fernando liked it, and we worked out. But that was something that I worked together with Asa in the post production and all the time doing those approaches.
If you want to watch the full conversation of this clip, be sure to click here and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.